and you can go on ahead and put your name and let us know if you're a CHW ally and where you're located. And where you're located. Welcome, welcome, welcome. We have Bev in the room from Kentucky. Yes, Olithia, South Carolina. Maria, we have Los Angeles here, California. Julie, South Carolina. Kim, Virginia, North Virginia. Okay, Virginia. I'm assuming it's North, but Virginia. Okay, we got more from South Carolina. We have Wisconsin in the house. Yes, welcome, Ohio. Wow, I'm loving to see all these different Oregon. We have New York. Hey, Phyllis. Yes. Yes, Michigan. Beautiful, beautiful. North Carolina. I know you had a wonderful summit last week. I hope you are feeling refreshed being here today. Welcome, everyone. I am Soledad Bolden. I am part of the Envision team as well as the Center for Community Health Alignment. We are representing the Southeast Network, where we cover the 11 states across the Southeast. So we're just extremely happy to be here. And those of you who are just joining us, you can just put Arkansas is here. Beautiful. If you could just put your location, where you are, let us know if you're CHW an ally. And we're actually going to pull up a poll right now before we start. The very first thing, before we begin, there's going to be a poll that's going to come up on your screen because you didn't have to register and come in here, right? So we want to know who's in the room officially, who's in the room. So let us know if you're a CHW. You should pull up on your screen right now. Let us know your profession, what state you're currently in. If you do not see your state there, just put other, okay? Just put other. We are just excited just to see you all in the room. We have great information. And this is a topic that we all are in need of, right? Sustainability within this workforce. And you're here to learn more. And no worries, we're gonna give you a time for Q&A, okay, where you could share some information and also ask some questions as well. But I'm so happy to see you all here, Kentucky in the room, Oregon, again, seeing so many different states. And this is what I love when we all come together from Montana, from different areas to share, right? To learn more, to strengthen our leadership, right, in the roles that we're in, and our knowledge for what we're doing and what we're giving back into the community. So thank you for taking the time. Thank you, thank you, thank you. And there's so much to come in the months ahead. So there's a lot to learn. There's a lot of changes happening, right? There's new innovations that's showing up and popping up in this world, and we just got to be in the know, right? So I would like to another second. I know there's some more people just joining us. There is a poll up on your screen. There is a poll up on your screen that you can just take a look at that. Just do this poll real quick. Remember, you did not have to register for this, but we would love for you to fill out this poll so we know who's in the room and what part of this field you are representing. CHW, ally, nurse, any a physician, midwife, what is it, administrative, what is your role? Okay. So thank you for taking the time to do that. Without any further ado, I would love to take the opportunity to introduce our speaker for today, Leslie Wolf, who created with a strong team from Envision, created this financial sustainability toolkit. There is a lot to learn, and it is just such an amazing opportunity just to hear what's out there, to see what's out there, and we get the opportunity to sit in and learn more. So I would love to bring Leslie on, and I'll share my screen in a moment. Sorry, I'm looking at my email. Let me bring up my um There we go. Yeah, so I will bring up Leslie and let's give her a round of applause for Leslie to come on and lead us today.
Thanks, Soledad. Hey, all. So happy to be here with all of you. Welcome, welcome, welcome. And I'll repeat what Soledad had said earlier, too. While folks are joining, please introduce yourself in the chat. Give your name, if you identify as a CHW or a CHW ally, and where you're joining from. So exciting to see where everyone is coming from. Um, so today, oh, if we want to advance that slide, please, where we're starting here.
Mm-hmm.
Oh
So,
yeah,
mm-hmm,
operating agreements.
mm-hmm.
Do you
Yes.
want me to do that or
I
all right,
can.
cool.
I can, as folks are still
So
doing, as folks are still coming in the
thank
room.
you.
Yes. So we're asking for you all to stay on mute when you're not talking, and use the chat box for questions. We have other folks that is in the room that is going to support you in the comments as well. And please do what you need to do to take care of yourself. I know we're here for 90 minutes. So we want you to just take care of you. If you need to step away for a minute, a moment, that is perfectly fine. So thank you.
Right on. Okay. So we're as Soledad said, right? We're going to talk about this toolkit. We are going to unpack the complete CHW Financial Sustainability Toolkit. Um, and within that, we're going to talk through Envision's approach to advancing workforce sustainability. Um, and as Soledad mentioned, right, this webinar is recorded, but we will leave plenty of time at the end for questions and discussion. So
Mhm.
if you want to advance this slide. Um, all right. My name's Leslie, right? You heard Soledad say that. My name's Leslie Wolf. I use she, her as my pronouns. I am Envision's Director of Programs, and I'm based in Madison, Wisconsin. So I'm a CHW ally, and I'm also a community organizer by trade and in my heart. And with over 20 years of experience supporting communities and coalitions to advance community-led policy and structural change. And I brought that lens. So as we get into the toolkit, right, you'll see like I brought that lens, especially that community organizing, coalition building lens, to the work that we did in the toolkit. If you could advance, please. Next slide. All right. Before we dive in, I want to briefly introduce Envision. Envision is a CHW-led collaboration of expert community health workers and CHW allies that support, guidance, technical assistance, and training to organizations and individuals really nationwide. And at the center of our work is the belief that CHWs should be leading decisions about the workforce. Our work focuses on supporting sustainable CHW workforce development through organizing principles, partnership building, leadership development, technical assistance, and systems change strategies. And you can see at the bottom there, right, that we're made up of a partnership of a number of different folks. We have the Wisconsin Department of Health Services. We have the Center for Community Health Alignment, which I know lots of y'all are in the house today. We have the University of Wisconsin Population Health Institute and Louisiana State University, LSU. So what we'll discuss today really reflects our collective knowledge but also lessons learned directly from CHWs and CHW-led efforts across the country. Next slide, please. And actually, if you want to go back one, I think, did we? Yeah, there we go. All right. So by the end of today's webinar, participants should be able to describe Envision's approach to advancing CHW financial sustainability. And we're going to say that word a lot. It's like a tongue tie, tongue twister, CHW Financial Sustainability. Identify the purpose of each section of the CHW Financial Sustainability Toolkit. Explain how to use the CHW Financial Sustainability Toolkit to support sustainability planning. And recognize how CHW leadership, allyship, and relationship building really serve as as the foundation, I should say, for advancing CHW financial sustainability. So today's really intended to be an overview and an introduction to the toolkit. we're not going to make everyone an expert in financial pathways like Medicare or Medicaid policy in the next 90 minutes. Instead, our goal is really to help you understand how the toolkit can guide sustainability planning and strategic action. All right. Potentially, you've already done this, but if not, and while we're going through this, if you want, you can take a moment to get the FST. We're going to put the link in the chat here. Well, this should do it. So if you want to go ahead and get the FST, it is free to grab a copy. So feel free to grab a copy and follow along. All right, next slide, please. So to start with, actually, if you want to advance, sorry, I didn't realize it was on the click. If you want to advance, so or stay there, sorry. When we talk about sustainability, we mean making sure CHW programs, roles, and initiatives have what they need to continue long term. Because I know that word gets used a lot, right? So I just want to be clear about what we're using as a definition. And ultimately, sustainability means moving away from temporary projects towards long-term systems and structures that support CHWs and communities over time. Advance the slide, please. So then financial sustainability means securing resources and financial infrastructure needed to support the continuation of CHW programs, workforce development, and employment over time. And that phrase, financial infrastructure, is really important. This isn't just about getting one grant. It's about building systems, partnerships, reimbursement structures, organizational commitment, and long-term strategies that allow CHW programs to survive and grow and thrive, really. Okay. So obtaining that continuous revenue for CHW employment and programs is crucial. So we would never pretend that it isn't for CHW workforce sustainability, but it's only one aspect. And what we think about is, right, you can maybe secure resources without having these other blocks in place, that you see on the screen. But when we're talking about true sustainability for the workforce, we really have to have a foundation of community leadership and equitable policies in place and institutionalization of CHW practices and programs first, because we're really trying to break the cycle of short-term funding and one-off grants, which has proven not to be sustainable. So we need to systematically embed or incorporate CHWs into existing institutions with proper training and guidelines. And to ensure long-lasting change, we also need to modify or create rules, regulations, and policies. But like we said, right, because it's not just about policy and structural change, it's also about ensuring the policies and structures are equitable, which is, again, why it's so important for community leadership and ownership, prioritizing the leadership of CHWs to be the driving force behind CHW workforce sustainability efforts. And that there's going to be a theme here. We're gonna see a theme of this throughout. All right, next slide, please. Okay, so why this toolkit? Much of the CHW workforce still relies on short-term and unstable funding, right? We all know this experience. We are all experiencing it or have experienced it. And while reimbursement such as Medicaid can support sustainability efforts, it's rarely enough on its own. And CHWs are too often excluded from the decisions shaping workforce sustainability. In response, this toolkit was built with and for CHW leaders. It was developed through deep collaboration with over 30 CHWs, community organizers, and allies from across the country. And every section of the toolkit was shaped by lived experience, strategic expertise, and a collective vision for what sustainable CHW workforce development could look like. So CHW voices and priorities are embedded throughout the toolkit. And I would say this is not just a resource. It reflects what is possible when CHWs lead sustainability strategy. So Envision's approach is really at the center of this, and at the center is understanding that sustainability requires growing the power of the CHW workforce. And relationships are one of the greatest sources of that power. CHWs already do relationship building exceptionally well. And the toolkit builds on what CHWs already do best and combines those strengths with organizing principles and strategies to advance sustainability. And this is really about intentionally growing influence, alignment, and collective action around sustainability goals. I'm going to advance the slide. So I've used this word power several times already, and I want to pause and define it. Uh, Power, simply put, is the ability to act or the ability to do stuff, the ability to make change happen. And CHWs already have power. And our goal is to grow the power of CHWs, to grow the ability of CHWs to influence systems, shape decisions, direct resources, and advance sustainable change. And one important thing to remember is that power is not static. Power changes, it shifts depending on context, relationships, resources, systems, information, and collective action. And because it changes, it means it can grow. Advance the slide, please. So I want to invite everyone to take a moment, just to, in a silent reflection, take a moment to consider this question. Based on the definition of power or the ability to act, how powerful are you? I want you to think about it and assign a number from 1 to 10, 10 being the most powerful and 1 being little to no power. And if you've done this exercise before, because we've gotten to hang out previously, and this is one of my favorite things to talk about, go ahead and still do the reflection because you're doing it today, which might be different than yesterday. So what did it feel like to consider how powerful you are? And again, this is just sort of for you to consider, right? Something to chew on. How did it feel to assign a number? What different factors were you considering when you placed yourself on the scale? I want to say there's really no wrong answer here, so there's only right answers. And the idea is very context specific and also very in the moment. How powerful we are changes from moment to moment. It changes based on what information we read in the news that morning, making a big difference on how powerful we are in that moment. For instance, like being able to cast a vote maybe makes you feel quite powerful. Seeing that vote get lost in the shuffle and maybe end up in an election loss for your chosen candidate may diminish that feeling of power and make you feel less powerful. And all of those various things impact how we understand our own power and process power and feel power in our body and in our bones. So power isn't static, it's changeable. That's really the thing I want you to hold on to, right? Power is changeable and we can grow our power. Okay, so we know we can change and grow power. And one of the ways to do that is through relationships. Relationships build power. When you are in relationship with people, you bring your self-interest or your concern for your priorities, your health and safety, and those are the people that are connected to you, like your friends, your family, your neighbors, and they bring theirs. Relationships build power through shared interests. When more than one person cares about something, there's more attention going to that interest. With every additional person who shares the interest, there's greater energy being given to that interest. The more people care about an issue, the more power you have because the more opportunity you have to influence decision makers. And this is really an endless source of power to tap into, and one that needs some strategy, which is the main purpose of the toolkit. Before we get into that, though, if you want to advance the slide, I do want to just talk about how change happens. So we're talking about, right, we're building power, and then how does change happen? How do we actually make that shift? So how we make change happens is how we build community leadership, change systems, structures, and policies to achieve financial sustainability, right? And that happens through people, narrative, and resources. And CHWs can directly impact decision makers or people by developing relationships and aligning interests. And also, CHWs have a shared story or a narrative of deeply held cultural perspectives that come from shared experiences, values, beliefs, and culture. And we can align that narrative to build public understanding and support so that CHWs can influence the way resources like funding are distributed, especially if people's interests and narratives are aligned. In short, we make change happen by influencing people, narrative, and resources, and we do this by building relationships. Okay, another way to think about this, when I advance the slide, is in an organizing cycle. This organizing cycle reflects Envision's broader approach to workforce sustainability. And it illustrates how change happens. So you can start anywhere because it's a cycle, and it begins with what you already know, like your relationships, community insights, lived experience, and existing strengths. And from there, you can assess where power exists. You can identify decision makers and allies and build relationships around those shared interests and use strategies like storytelling and other data, coalition building, and direct engagement to influence that change. And as relationships and alignment grow, so does your collective power, creating greater ability to advance sustainability goals and strengthen the CHW workforce over time. Importantly, because it's a cycle, there's this process, right, where it's action, reflection, relationship building, and continued growth, and then you start all over again. So this approach really recognizes that sustainability work goes beyond that technical knowledge and that it's relational, it's strategic, and it requires collective action. Okay, one more model, and then I promise we're going to get into more about the toolkit. These are all foundational in it. Okay, so another foundational concept that's in Envision's approach that can be found throughout the toolkit is illustrated in this pyramid. Without CHW leadership, sustainability efforts are compromised. Historically, there have been many situations where decisions about the workforce were made without meaningful CHW involvement. And the APHA CHW self-determination policy really emphasizes that decision-making structures involving CHWs should include majority CHW representation, right? 51% or more. That principle forms the foundation of this pyramid. So with true CHW leadership and representation, CHWs and allies can confidently set collaborative agreements for decision-making processes that reflect CHW voices and needs. Then, when addressing critical parameters, such as choosing or determining a CHW definition, training standards, and certifications, having CHWs at the table, or even better, constructing the table, ensures that these decisions are made by and for CHWs. And only then can we effectively implement sustainable systems and financing approaches. So the key takeaway is that sustainability sits at the top of the pyramid, but it depends on everything underneath it. Strong sustainability efforts require strong leadership from the people most impacted. In other words, nothing about us without us. Okay. To summarize, we created the Financial Sustainability Toolkit to support the CHW workforce in growing power through strategic relationships while advancing sustainability goals. And that's important because too often, sustainability conversations focus only on reimbursement or billing while ignoring CHW leadership or not focusing on CHW power through relationships. This toolkit intentionally takes a broader approach and represents an innovative approach to sustainability planning. The toolkit combines organizing principles, relationship building, CHW leadership, and sustainability planning into one process. It's designed to help teams move from isolated sustainability efforts toward coordinated long-term strategy. Right, and I advance the slide. So let's get into it. Okay. You want to advance, please? Yeah, there we go. All right. The toolkit is divided into 6 sections. Section 1 focuses on sustainability foundations and strategy. Section 2 through 5 explore 4 major sustainability pathways, including Medicare policy, Medicaid policy, organizational financing, and braided and blended funding. And Section 6 helps teams pull everything together into a sustainability action plan. So we'll briefly walk through each section now. Advance that slide. Section 1 introduces Envision's broader approach to sustainability, and it actually includes a lot of what we discussed at the beginning of today's webinar. So you got like a primer on a lot of that. It includes organizing principles, concepts around power and strategy, leadership and relationship building frameworks, and a sustainability inventory tool. So this section really helps teams understand where they are starting from and what sustainability goals matter most. Advance the slide, please. So in that inventory tool, you can connect the dots of what are you already doing? What do you want to sustain? What are you hoping to keep going? What are things that you may be ready to release on or pay less attention to? Okay, I want to advance the slide. So, what are we starting? What are you starting with? I want to give you just a moment to reflect on this because a really key point throughout the toolkit is that no one is starting from zero. We're always starting with something. There's stuff that we're doing that's good. We've got a lot of good already to work from, to build on. So take a moment and think about what are you already doing that needs to be sustained? What relationships, partnerships, leadership, or community trust are you already building from? Where do CHWs already have influence? As you reflect, I'll move into the next slide. Okay, so section 2 through 5, like I mentioned before, these are the financial sustainability pathways, and all of them follow a similar structure. Each section includes an overview of the pathway, examples from the field, some key terminology, a set of reflection questions, some planning tools, prioritization scales, and relationship mapping exercises. So these sections are designed to help teams think strategically about which pathways best align with their goals and context. I'm going to really briefly touch on each of them, but there's much richer information inside the toolkit on each of these. All right, so to start with, if you want to advance the slide, Medicare policy is section 2. Medicare is a federal program that provides healthcare coverage primarily for adults 65 and older and certain people with disabilities. And unlike Medicaid, Medicare is entirely federal. And recently, there was a new Medicare rule created, which created opportunities for reimbursement of some CHW services. However, there are important requirements and limitations. For example, services must be determined medically necessary by a billing provider, and patients must be enrolled in Medicare Part B. So this section helps teams understand where Medicare may fit into their broader sustainability planning. Advance the slide, please. All right, so then section 3 is focused on Medicaid. And Medicaid is currently one of the biggest sustainability conversations happening nationally for the CHW workforce. But Medicaid varies significantly from state to state. So this section explores state plan amendments and waivers, reimbursement structures, implementation barriers, and the toolkit helps teams think critically about the opportunities and the many limitations of Medicaid financing. All right, next slide. So it's important to emphasize that reimbursement alone will not sustain the workforce. There are significant limitations to Medicare and Medicaid financing. And in the toolkit, we highlight these because we want people to be well informed about what they're getting into. So these include things like billing restrictions, administrative burden, supervision requirements, limited flexibility, and really risk the medicalization of the CHW role. So most organizations will ultimately need multiple sustainability strategies working together. We'll advance the slide, please. So then in section 4, we look at systems change for organizational financing. Because even if reimbursement exists, organizations still need internal systems capable of supporting CHWs long term. So this section explores CHWs, excuse me. This section explores sustaining CHWs on internal operating budgets, which might include revenue generating funds, local or state appropriations that can be used to support CHW roles, particularly within public health and human service agencies, or sources like community benefit funds, where nonprofit hospitals can invest in CHW roles as part of their community benefit requirements, particularly when addressing the root causes of health needs or supporting priority populations. And sustainability also requires organizations to move beyond temporary projects and fully integrate CHWs into long-term systems and operations. So this section also encourages organizations to think about operational infrastructure and leadership buy-in and staffing models and budgeting processes and institutional commitment. All right, if you want to advance, thank you. So the next section focuses on braided and blended funding. And braided funding is when you're coordinating two or more funding streams, but maintaining each funding stream's connection back to its original source, and therefore maintaining any constraints on those funds. So literally like a braid. You could unravel that braid and you'd have those different funding sources distinct from each other, but when they come together, it forms a different structure. Uh, Blended funding refers to the pooling of two or more funding sources into one funding stream. If you imagine a blender, the idea is like a smoothie. All the distinct ingredients go in and come out as one delicious smoothie. So, one of the biggest lessons nationally is that sustainability often requires multiple funding streams working together. We see this across, state and local communities. For example, Medicaid may support direct services, grants may support training or outreach, hospitals may support care coordination, and public health funding may support community engagement. Braided funding and blended funding, for that matter, helps organizations avoid over-reliance on a single funding source and creates more flexibility and resilience. So in this section, we explore different partners and entities that need to be at the table to make a braided or blended strategy work for you. Okay, for each of these pathways, we rely on this central idea throughout the toolkit. Relationships are a source of power. Sustainability work is fundamentally collaborative. No single organization or individual can usually move sustainability efforts forward alone. And the toolkit really encourages teams to think strategically then about who influences decisions, who shares interests, where partnerships already exist, so that we know where relationships need strengthening. All right, now that we've walked through those four sustainability pathways, I just want to invite another brief reflection and want to have y'all think a little bit about which pathway feels most relevant to your current work. Like which feels most achievable right now, or which feels most challenging? And what sustainability conversations are already happening in your organization or community? For some teams, Medicare may feel like an immediate focus. And for others, Medicaid may feel more realistic or more aligned with their goals. Or for some, it may be neither of those. The toolkit is intentionally designed to help teams prioritize based on their own context, your own relationships, and readiness. All right, as you're reflecting on that, I'll have you advance the slide. Okay, so section 6 helps teams pull everything together into a financial sustainability action plan. And what that means is that it helps you turn sustainability goals into concrete strategic actions. And doing that, you select and use effective tactics by deepening your understanding of how to influence decision makers. So tactics can then be tailored to effectively move decisions forward and ultimately achieve your sustainability goals. All right, so if you want to advance the slide, I said a few things here that I want to define that we go into depth in the toolkit. So I'm not going to go as deep today as we do in the toolkit. Section 6 has a lot of rich information and guidance about this concept of tactics, of moving from strategy to action. So tactics are specific actions your group takes to move your long-term CHW plan forward. So they turn your goals into real activities that raise awareness or build trust. They influence decision makers for funding CHW work. And tactics sit within your larger strategy, your overall approach for shifting power, building relationships, and securing sustainable CHW funding. If the strategy is the direction you are headed, the tactics are the steps you take to get there. I'm going to advance the slide. So within the toolkit, Um, we talk about how different situations require different tactics. So the toolkit helps you consider what tactic best fits the moment, who needs to be influenced, what level of pressure or relationship building is needed, who should deliver the message, and what role should CHWs play across all of this. Some examples of tactics when we think about this is like a relationship building meeting. It might be like an entry point meeting. Sometimes it's storytelling and testimony. Other times it's broader things like coalition outreach or public education or meeting with a, uh, a decision maker. Might be data sharing or community mobilization. So there's all kinds of different ways that we think about tactics, and in the toolkit we get into some pretty specific examples. Right, if you want to advance. Oh, and actually you're good there. All right, so the same tactic can succeed or fail depending on timing and who delivers it. So one of the things that we really encourage is for you to think about when is the best time to act. What decisions or policy windows are approaching, so taking in that full landscape. Who has the strongest relationships or credibility, and how are CHW centered as leaders and messengers? Advance the slide. The process itself really strengthens leadership and collective power. So it's not just about getting a decision maker to move. There's more to it than that. So you'll recall the cycle that we talked about earlier. As teams move from strategy to action, they also strengthen partnerships. They build CHW leadership. They expand allyship and community support and develop long-term organizing capacity. So, meaning they grow power, right, across all of those things as you're working through tactic to tactic to tactic. And of note, the more successes you have, the more wins you have in those different tactics, the more your power grows as well. And it opens up the door to the next win. Okay, advance the slide. Okay, so in this section 6, the action plan at the end of section 6 really brings everything together into one place through a structured action planning table. And by this point, teams have explored sustainability priorities, they've assessed relationships and power, identified pathways, and considered potential tactics. So now the focus becomes, how do we put all of that into action? So the table helps teams organize their thinking across several key areas: the goal they're working towards, the decision makers they need to influence, who the influencers, allies, and other interested parties are, the tactics they plan to use, the specific tasks and next steps, what are the indicators of success, who else needs to be involved, and what's the timing, and what are the resources needed to move the work forward. It's like all there in this one big table. So the goal is to move from broad sustainability conversations into a concrete, coordinated action plan grounded in relationship strategy and, of course, CHW leadership. Advance the slide. So when we actually talk about using the toolkit, then it's designed to be completed collaboratively with CHW leadership and participation throughout the process. And it works best when the team includes partners and allies who influence sustainability decisions, or at least have a good picture of who the decision makers are and where the influence is. The process itself can strengthen relationships then and build alignment and support shared strategy development. So it's not intended to be completed alone at someone's desk. It's a facilitated planning process. And oftentimes it also needs some facilitation support as well, outside facilitation support. All right, so we've got an idea of what this is about, what's in it. So your question might be, where do I even begin? All right, so we have this step ladder process of how to get into the toolkit. So step 1, you complete the section 1 worksheet, which is determine what needs to be sustained. The inventory worksheet in section 1 is where you begin on that. Having all this information in one place will help your team assess which components of CHW sustainability you want to prioritize, and in turn, how to move forward in the toolkit. Then step 2, you complete the strategy scales and determine CHW involvement for each approach. So each section starts with a scale from 1 to 5 to help you indicate how important that approach is to your sustainability goals. How important it is, and probably to some degree, right, how ready you are. And these scales will really help your team decide which financial approaches best align with your priorities and where to focus in the toolkit. CHW leadership is a central strategy, as I've noted, throughout the toolkit. So in addition to the scales, at the start of each strategy, you'll notice a megaphone symbol, and this signals prompts related to gathering CHW input and promoting CHW leadership. And excuse me, because implementing sustainability approaches has to be founded in CHW leadership, we really recommend reviewing the CHW leadership callout boxes alongside filling out the strategy scales at the beginning of sections 2 through 5 after completing your inventory worksheet in section 1. Then you're able to look at, okay, some of these, I've scaled as a 5, some I've scaled as a 2, and you can prioritize pathways and build your knowledge there. So the ones that have the high are on the higher scale are the space where you might start. So once you've chosen the pathways that are, 4s and 5s, it's time to study up. So each section begins with a brief overview of the pathway, where you can take some time to review it and become more familiar. And remember, you don't have to be an expert to get started. CHWs and CHW allies will learn a lot together through this process, even with prior background knowledge, even without prior background knowledge. You can go a long way just by building on your existing relationships. In fact, I think that's where we get most of our really good information, is based in people's experiences. And then step 4, you fill out the corresponding table for that pathway. So you use the table to map out key individuals and organizations who can influence or are impacted by your strategy, and identify shared interests and opportunities for collaboration. So you think about their priorities and challenges and how CHWs can address them. Then decide who from your team will engage these partners and how. And then step 5, you determine next steps to move decision makers and build an action plan. So that's where you to put your right through scenario. Oh goodness. Am I back?
Yes, you are back now.
Okay, so sorry about that. I've been having some internet struggles. Um, Bear with me. Thank you. All right. I appreciate all the thumbs up. Thank you, thank you. All right. All right, we're gonna walk through an applied yeah, I'm not one particular community made up scenario, but it's probably one that should feel pretty familiar. Okay. So in this example, a small community-based organization has a team of CHWs serving Black and Latino adults with diabetes and hypertension. The CHW team is currently funded through a short-term grant ending in 12 months. And CHWs are highly, did I disappear again?
It's going in and out, but we can hear you now.
All right, I'm gonna, and y'all let me know if I need to do something different. Okay.
We can't hear you,
I'll,
Leslie.
can't hear me?
Try turning off your camera.
Mm.
That'll save your bandwidth for the audio.
Yeah, I did turn off my camera, but I'm so sorry, y'all.
Okay, we hear you now.
All right, let's see how that goes. Thank you. Okay, so in this example, we have a small community-based organization that has a team of CHWs supporting Black and Latino adults with diabetes and hypertension. The CHW team is currently funded through a short-term grant ending in 12 months. And CHWs are highly trusted in community and showing strong outcomes. And leadership wants to sustain and expand the program. And CHWs want greater involvement in decision making. So the organization brings together a collaborative sustainability team, including CHWs, of course, program leadership, finance staff, and a local health department ally. All right, so then if we advance the slide, please. Okay, so the team, they begin with the sustainability inventory and relationship mapping exercises to determine what needs to be sustained. And they identify current programming, existing partnerships, current funding sources, where CHWs already have influence and where CHWs are missing decisions. And what they realize is the organization already has strong relationships with community members. They have good data showing positive impact of the CHW program. They have a trusted relationship with a Medicaid managed care organization, and they have a long-standing partnership with the local health department. But they also realize CHWs are not included in financial planning conversations. They do not yet understand Medicaid reimbursement pathways, and they rely too heavily on grants. Okay, so then if we advance the slide, yep, you got it. All right, next, the team works through sections 2 through 5 of the toolkit. They review each sustainability pathway and use the prioritization scales and CHW callout boxes to guide decision making. They discuss fit and feasibility, organizational readiness, the CHW priorities, and relationship opportunities. Advance the slide, please. So when they get to Medicare policy, right, the team asks, could Medicare reimbursement support any CHW activities? Which clients are Medicare beneficiaries? And do they have partnerships with clinical providers? The team determines that Medicare may eventually support some services, but because their population is not primarily Medicare eligible, and because they lack the necessary billing infrastructure, they decide Medicaid is not their strongest immediate strategy. They assign Medicare a priority score of 2. This helps them avoid spending energy on a pathway that's not yet realistic. So if you want to go to next, yep, there you go. All right, so then we get into Medicaid policy, and the team asks, does the state Medicaid program allow CHW reimbursement? What services are reimbursable? Who influences Medicaid decisions? Who already has relationships with Medicaid leaders? Their state recently approved a Medicaid state plan amendment supporting CHW reimbursement. However, many community-based organizations still face challenges accessing reimbursement. CHW's identified Medicaid sustainability as an important priority, and the team assigns Medicaid a priority score of 4. All right, we advance the slide. The team also recognizes they cannot rely on Medicaid alone. They discuss the need for stronger internal systems, leadership support, operational infrastructure, and organizational financing strategies. The local health department partnership is willing to look into funding a CHW in their budget, which is funded in part by local taxes. This becomes another high priority. They assign organizational financing a score of 4. Advance the slide, please. Finally, the team explores braided and blended funding. They recognize that different funding streams may support different components of CHW work. For example, Medicaid supports direct services, grants support outreach and training, hospital funding supports care coordination, health department funds a position. The team identifies braided funding as their highest priority and assigns a score of 5. Advance the slide, please. All right, so then we get into step 2, right, where they're into building a sustainability action plan. Their overall goal is to sustain and expand the CHW program beyond the current grant period. Their prioritized strategies include braided funding, Medicaid reimbursement, and internal organizational systems change. This toolkit helps them organize these ideas into a concrete action process. We can advance the slide. All right, so the team now has priority strategies identified, but they still need action. So they begin thinking about tactics. Effective tactics are grounded in understanding power and who needs to be influenced, what relationships already exist, who has credibility with decision makers, and what tactics best fit the decision maker and this moment. I can advance the slide. In this example, the team's goal is to secure permanent CHW positions funded through the health department's regular operating budget using local tax levy dollars. So now the question becomes, how do we influence the people making those budget decisions? The toolkit encourages teams to start by understanding the decision maker. What are their priorities? What language do they already use? What pressures are they facing? What goals have they already publicly committed to? Advance the slide, please. Maybe the health department's strategic plan already prioritizes chronic disease prevention, reducing health disparities, and improving community trust as strategic priorities. That tells the team something really important. They do not need to convince leadership that these issues matter. Instead, they can frame CHW sustainability as a solution that helps the department achieve goals leadership already cares about. So the team chooses tactics that align with those priorities. They present CHW outcome data connected to chronic disease prevention goals. They organize storytelling opportunities where CHWs and community members speak directly about impact. They invite leadership into the community to see CHW work firsthand. And they build broader partnerships to demonstrate community and institutional support. The important point here is that the tactics are strategic. They are intentionally designed to align interests, strengthen relationships, and influence budget decision-making. Advance the slide, please. So they then pull it all together in the action plan at the end of section 6, where they outline what they're trying to sustain, which pathways will align best with their goals, what tactics will move their goal forward, the steps, who needs to be involved, by when, what's intended, what the intended outcome is, and what actions come next. So putting it all together and putting the fun back in funding, you start with what you already have. Combine that with CHW leadership, CHW allyship, and a clear sustainability goal. Then you choose a prioritized financial pathway and build a focused action plan centered on strategic relationships that grow your power, your ability to make that goal happen. And because this is complex, we pulled it all together in one place, the CHW Financial Sustainability Toolkit. So as we begin wrapping up, I want to leave you with one final reflection. What relationships could help move your sustainability efforts forward? Who needs to be at the table that may not be there yet? What would it look like to further center CHW leadership? And what is one small next step your team could take after today? Sustainability work can feel big and complex, but often it starts with one conversation, one relationship, one partnership, or one strategic next step. And over time, those actions build momentum, alignment, and collective power. And as you leave here and get started on your own process with the Financial Sustainability Toolkit, here are a few things to keep in mind. This is a process. Planning for sustainability can feel overwhelming, especially when things feel unclear or incomplete. The toolkit encourages us to slow down, reflect on where we are, and consider the best next steps for moving forward. You don't need to have all the answers. This work is iterative. It's okay to feel stuck or unsure. Just keep going. And when working with others, part of the process is making space for not knowing everything right away. And this work takes time and it takes others. Carving out space for reflection and collaboration is essential. Think about who else should be at the table: CHW, CHW leaders, state associations, health departments, and community partners. And please share the toolkit widely. It is free to access and please share it with others, especially if it's been helpful to you. And you have support. So Envision is here to walk alongside you. The most effective way to use the toolkit is in partnership with technical assistance, and we can help you explore what strategies make sense for your goals and your community. So you can reach out anytime, and we actually have a direct email that I'll pop into the chat here where you can send questions. Okay, so I just want to summarize today's major takeaways because this was, a nice long hour together. So we start with what already exists. CHW leadership must be centered throughout sustainability efforts. Relationships are a critical source of power, and you do have power. Sustainability requires collective strategy, partnership, and organizing. Multiple financing pathways are often necessary, and long-term sustainability requires both strategy and systems change. Most importantly, this toolkit is designed to help teams move from reactive funding cycles towards collaborative, long-term workforce sustainability planning, grounded in CHW leadership and strategic action. I want to thank you all so much for being here today and for the work you're doing to strengthen and sustain the CHW workforce. And if you have additional questions, reflections, or examples from your work, please stay with us for the Q&A.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Leslie.
Yes, thank you. And sorry for my being off camera now.
Right.
My spotty Wi-Fi.
It's okay. It's okay. The information definitely came through, and I'm sure we have quite a few questions. So I will pass this portion of our webinar to Kim.
Thank you so much, Soledad, and thank you, Leslie, for all of that great information. We want to now open the floor up for any questions that you may have for Leslie. So you can feel free to drop it in the chat, or you can come off mute and ask your question. And to kick us off, we do have a question in the chat, and it says, in an ideal world, who should be completing this? Beyond including CHWs, should it be a state, a single organization, or other?
Yeah, great question. And it's actually, I don't have a simple answer because a lot of um, it depends on where the strength of your partnerships are already. For instance, like if you're operating as a coalition looking at sustainability, then you'd probably, have a number of different entities at the table working through the process collaboratively. And so it sort of works at all levels. It can be that level. It can also be at the, organization level. I would say, typically we're not necessarily talking about individuals. It is still meant to be, a team of people. But certainly a single organization could be looking at the financial sustainability toolkit, and it could be as a starting place to then be building out those relationships and partnerships that it's going to take to build true sustain over time.
Thank you, Leslie. There was also
Yeah.
a question about whether or not today's slides will be shared, and a recording of today's presentation will be available on our website. It'll be on the network's webpage that is a part of the Center for Community Health Alignment's website. So yes, we will be sharing today's recording. Any other questions? You can raise your hand and be recognized, or you can drop it in the chat, and we are happy to read it off for you. Go right ahead, Phyllis.
Hi there. This was excellent. Thanks, Leslie. I'm rather pragmatic, so it was a little long for me to type it into the chat. But Can you talk about how do you use the tools to prioritize Medicaid, Medicare, and then you get to the end? Like I see the tools at at the ends of the sections. And so do you like focus solely on Medicaid first or whatever, pick one level, focus on that and fill out the tools, and then focus on Medicare and kind of go through that and then synthesize it at the end? Or can you talk a little bit more
Great
about?
question, Phyllis. I actually love your question because I think again it's not exactly I don't have a straight answer of this or that. It actually again depends a little, and it's meant to be where you can do what makes sense for you. So, for example, you could start in on Medicaid and your path down, completing the full section, and then stop in the middle and say, actually, where we are, not sure. Let's hit pause, jump over to Medicare, see if we get some more traction there, complete Medicare, realize, nope, not that, back to Medicaid. I mean, you can bop around. But what you pointed out is that, yes, it does. The intention is then you are pulling content down to that section 6 where things are culminating. So once you've sort of moved through the messy strategy stuff of just kind of like getting a feel of what's the landscape and where are we with Medicaid, Medicare, organizational financing, braided, blended, then you can actually start to distill into, okay, what are the steps? And so you're pulling those steps out into section 6 where you're getting more specific on the tactics portion. But certainly if it feels better to your team through each part in completion, like we're gonna get through all of Medicaid, we're gonna get through all of
Mhm.
Medicare, then that's what you should do. It's really about what feels good to you and is meeting you where you're at.
Yeah, I think which this is really helpful, and I think it is liberating that you don't have to go through everything, step by step. And it brings out, just by going through it, some things will surface, and you're free to move on if not. Um, and then like the the partnership thing, the blending and braiding section. So that would be kind of, you'd pull the things that seem to work for you from the other
Yeah.
sections.
Yeah. So Phyllis, you're pointing out something that it's actually complicated even in us coming up with a name for it, right? When like sections 2 through 5 aren't necessarily all sources, right? Because Medicaid and Medicare might be sources, whereas braided and blended is like a strategy that brings in those different, which is why we say pathways, right? Because yeah, you're right that
Yeah.
that braided and blended section is one of the more complicated things, but it's so essential, right? And it's definitely
Yeah.
where, yeah, if you're gonna really start to bring in multiple sources, which most of us will, it gives you a playground to work with to start to
Hmm.
actually think about what does that look like in our context. And then, yeah, once again, you can pull the pieces down into the action plan of, okay, these are the steps we need to take to get going on that or to grow it.
Great. Great. Thanks.
Yeah, absolutely. No, you're elevating all the
It's
all the
fun.
all the complex nuances of this kind of work. I
Yeah.
appreciate you.
Yeah. Yeah. That's good.
Thank you all for that. And I noticed people dropping off, but we do want to hear from you. We want your feedback. We've launched the evaluation, which is a few questions that we would like for you to answer. And as Sarah has put in the chat, if you would like our certificate of attendance for today, please be sure to include both your name as well as your email address in the evaluation, and a certificate of attendance will be emailed to you. But we need both your name as well as your email address to know who to put on the certificate and where to send it. So thank you all so much for completing the evaluation. Are there any more questions?
I have a quick question about the evaluation. Like, did it pop up or is it in the chat?
It should pop up on your screen. We are launching it via Zoom. Now, are you on a computer, laptop, or a cell phone?
I'm on a laptop.
You're on a laptop. Yes, it should be popping up. And if you don't see it, I'm not sure if you can see it at the bottom where there's an option to look at polls or quizzes on your end,
Mm,
but
I-
it should pop up.
I'm under the notes section and I'm not seeing, I don't see it.
You're not seeing it, and you're on a click on, they said more and poses or quizzes, and it should pop up.
That's what I'm saying. Under my more, there's no polls and quizzes option.
Okay,
There
because
was an
mine is
option for that.
beside it.
There was an option for that at one point during the webinar, but it's not there anymore.
Okay, I do see that it's open and that people are completing it, so I'm not sure what's going on.
Is there a way to be able to put a link in the chat or?
I'm going to try to drop this QR code in the chat.
Okay.
Give me 1 second. And while I'm doing that, please feel free to ask your questions.
Could you, I'm sorry,
Did I
would
miss
you,
something? Or is there a copy of the toolkit? Is there a
Yes, we
copy?
actually put the link in the chat. You have to download it. They're requesting a little bit of information to be able to track who is downloaded in the toolkit. So I think we did
Oh,
drop
I
a
see
link.
it. I
Yeah.
see it. Got it. Thank you. Mhm.
You're welcome.
did all this, right? You should truly get before you download, we like, oh, delete it. Catherine, I don't want to do all this. Get out my way.
Any other questions?
Gertie Haywood.
Yes.
I would love to ask a question of others actually, because I saw in the chat, uh, Deb noted that they're working on using the toolkit. I'm curious, is anybody else in the process of using it or tried using it so far? Because we're always looking for, additional feedback or, curiosities from folks about, where they're getting stuck. But that's cool if this was brand new to everyone. Yeah, go ahead.
I don't know where to
We've
tell you to look. I think they must have taken it, like Rachel or something.
in Western New York and the Finger Lakes region, we've been looking at
You want me to
this
call?
toolkit, and haven't really started operationalizing it, but I think it's really, a good way. Yeah, so I think we're just kind of navigating where to start and what tools to use.
Thanks, Phyllis. Yeah, I'm excited to hear how it goes. Would love for you to stay in touch on that. I imagine you will.
We sure will. We sure will.
Any other questions for Leslie?
And before we close out, I just want to present something real quick.
Yes. Okay, before I turn it over to Soledad for an announcement, we would also like to share that there will be a part 2 of the Financial Sustainability Toolkit on August the 4th. And we will be sending out more details about that webinar via the Southeast CHW Network listserv. But there will be a part 2, so please save the date for August the 4th. and that's going to be at 12:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, but more to come on that via the different listservs. Turning it over to you now, Soledad.
Okay. Thank you so much, Kim. Before we head out, I did not want to leave here without giving the opportunity for folks to participate in a summit that is happening. It's the South East CHW Summit that is happening September 22nd and 23rd. I just put the link in the chat because there's a lot of different items within the link that I want to share with you all. So if you would love to join us, if you would like to even present, we do have an opportunity for folks to share a presentation that you would like for others to hear or view what you have going on. If you look at my screen, this is exactly what the QR code look like. We're looking for sponsors. So this first link up here, if you want to purchase your ticket, you can as well. But we have a link for our sponsors. If you like to see a package, be an exhibitor, you are welcome to do so. We are going to announce our sponsors very, very soon. So look out for that. The call for presenters is still open, so you are welcome to become a presenter, and also some other items within this link that you can take a look at if you want to be part of it. Now, I know this is a Southeast network, right? 11 different states, but this summit has always been open to other states. So we've had folks from California, Delaware, all these different states that join in. So you are welcome, welcome, welcome to come and join us in September in Greenville, South Carolina. So I'm looking forward to seeing you all there. That's it.
I'm wondering, is John still on?
Yes. Oh, well, I see his name, but not him.
Yeah, I'm here.
Do you have a way to share the survey in a different way? Some folks are still saying that they don't have access to the survey because it didn't pop up. Is there a way? I believe somebody put the QR code, but somebody's mentioning that they still don't have access to the survey.
Neither do I, because it's not my Zoom. Sorry.
It's in Zoom and it's still open.
Is there a way to broadcast it again, Kim?
I'm not seeing it. I only have two options: end poll or get a QR code, which I did put in the chat. But let me go back to see.
Monica, do you see the QR code that's in the chat? I'm wondering if that will work for you. If the poll did not, maybe you could put it in there one more time, Kim.
Okay.
Okay, somebody said that they were able to do it via QR code. Okay. So Monica, just 1 second, they're going to put the QR code back in the chat one more time. Because
and then it has a simple open this file and it'll pop up on your screen and you can just take it from there.
On the QR code?
Yeah, you just use your phone. It'll come up on the screen, the QR code, and then you can take the poll.
Awesome. Thank you, John. There again, Monica. And yeah, for anybody who needs a certificate, please fill out that evaluation. And let us know if for some reason it's still not working for you. Awesome.
Great. Thank you.
Somebody's having success. So that's good. Thank you, John.
All right. If there are no other questions, okay, Jamila, it's still not working for you. Do you see anything at the bottom of your screen that says polls or quizzes, or do you see an option to click on more, then select polls or quizzes?
No, I was able to participate in the other quizzes that were up, and I went through the more tab to get to it, but it's not there anymore.
Okay.
I'm gonna drop a link in the chat. I just did this I took the QR code and got a link from it. So click on that and it should
Okay.
take you to where you want to go.
Thank you, John.
You're welcome.
And it does. I'm all set.
Great.
Thank you so
I
much.
love when a plan comes together.
Yes, indeed. Thank you, guys. This has been amazing. Thank you so much.
Thank you for being here.
Of course.
And if there are no other questions, comments, or announcements, we would like to thank Leslie again and all of the team members who made today's webinar happen. And thank you all so much for being here today. And please be reminded and save the date for part 2 of this, where Leslie is going to walk you through some more practical examples with the toolkit, August the 4th at 12:30 p.m. and that's Eastern Standard Time. And more information will be shared about that through the various listservs, one being the Southeast CHW Networks listserv, which I did drop the link for how to get connected to that listserv. But if you're on CHW's listserv or Envision, you should get it. So be on the lookout for that. So thank you all again, and we look forward to seeing you all soon.